Hi everyone. So tonight this is going to be kind of a short little video. We're going to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she thinks, maybe it's time for a national divorce. I know y'all have probably heard all about this over the past couple of days. It's been like pretty big news now. I put up a reel on it also. It was her talking about, basically how that national divorce would look. And so you guys might be kind of sick of this topic, but we're going to talk about it for just a few minutes. So it'll probably only be like 15 minutes. So I watched the video today. Basically, she's saying, is it time for a national divorce? And what does that look like? So in her opinion, we would just divvy up. It's almost like going back to more of like a states' rights. And she said a few things that sounded pretty good. So you're like, okay, that sounds pretty good. This is almost like Articles of Confederation type of thing. Like we would shrink the federal government. We would allow more autonomy to the states. She wanted to get rid of the Department of Education. And Joe Hanush says, wait, are you breaking up with me? That's funny. Are you in a blue state? I'm in a red state here, so I'm good. But basically what she's saying is that, like, would we just go back to, like, each state does kind of its individual thing, and that way we don't worry so much about the federal government. The states kind of go their own directions with different things. Somebody said, national divorce, LOL, that's civil war, 99% of people can't handle it. Yeah, and so I watched a video today where they showed, like, a clip of her talking, and then they went straight into that afterwards, like, national divorce, is that really just code for civil war? And how did that, end up back in when we had the Civil War? It ended up a disaster, obviously, and very, very hard on the country. So basically, she's saying all these kind of great things, but what else she's saying is that pretty much like you would just divvy up the red states and the blue states, and they would do kind of their own thing. The Department of Defense would go back to mostly just defending us, not going out and trying to seek wars and everything. And all that kind of sounded okay. Kind of an issue, when we do think about if it was more of like a civil war type of situation, is the red states and the blue states, the red areas, the blue areas, they're not like perfectly demarcated. It's not like we have the upper half is all Democrat, the lower half is all Republican, and they could kind of just, split apart. I mean, we have red state, blue state, red state, blue state, blue city, red, state. We have all kind of different mixtures. So how would that really work? And how would people's rights not kind of be stamped on in the process? And especially when we talk about like one of her proposals, I prefer a 330 million state solution. Yeah, more like anarchy. So she makes a proposal, and y'all know I actually shared a reel of this. She pretty much said, we don't want Democrat voters going to red states because they're fleeing their blue state. They don't like the policies. They don't like the taxes. They don't like the school system. And then they move, like California to Texas, and they start voting. And all of a sudden, that state starts to vote in more Democrat policies and everything like that. So she made a point that a lot of Republicans and conservatives really like, which is like, don't come to our state and ruin it. If you're fleeing your state because you don't like how it is, then you shouldn't come here and try to make our state more like the state that you came from. It doesn't make any sense. And that is very logical. But she proposed something that's kind of crazy. She proposed, and this was in the reel that I shared, she proposed that basically like red states could decide, if you move to our state from a blue state, maybe we're not, or maybe because you were a registered Democrat or something, you move to our state, maybe you're not allowed to vote for 5 years. And I actually was super surprised because I really believed that a lot more Republicans would think this was like a fantastic idea. People said that they liked it in theory, but by and large, I think that video had like 150 comments on it. People were so much smarter than I had given them credit for. It almost like restored my faith in the people of this country, because even, it's not like I have a bunch of Democrat followers on here. I'm a libertarian. I have a lot of conservative followers. mostly people were saying this is a horrible idea. Like, it's a slippery slope. It can only lead to badness. Like, it could cause so many problems. It's unconstitutional. So I was very happy with the way that this idea was received, because I think people were a lot more like long-sighted than they've been in the past. You know, there's been times when different issues have come up, and it seems like people in our country are very short-sighted for their party. Like, you know, oh, this will benefit my party, so we should jump all over it. This is a great policy, you know, but not even realizing the ways that it could hurt their party, hurt liberty in the future. And this was one of the first times I shared something that, yeah, it would have benefited Republican states. It would have benefited Republican voters in those states and keeping their policies. But a lot, like by and large, almost everyone said like it was still a terrible idea. They still thought that was an infringement on liberty of the individual voters. I mean, basically that would be like taxation and laws without representation. So many people recognize that I felt a lot better that minds and hearts are changing and people are starting to understand individual liberty and the importance of it over party politics. So that was kind of awesome. Like, it showed us a lot there. Let's read a couple comments. I am going to keep this like pretty short. It's just not a real solution. People think it's a panacea that isn't. Yeah, but I didn't really think that. I think a lot of people saw that it wasn't a solution, and I was very happy. Austin is our redheaded stepchild, Texan. Some Texans said that. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of the thing. Places like Austin, people are complaining that the more people go straight from California to Austin, the more that the voting is going kind of, you know, more Democrat, the policies are changing. What happens if you were born and raised and just love your state because of family all over very own personal attachments, but decide to leave because your beloved state is become California? I mean, I don't know if she's saying that like you were registered as a Republican. She didn't really like get into the details because this was just kind of like her thought, you know, it was her having an idea. She didn't say like if you were a registered Republican in California and moved to Texas that they wouldn't let you vote. She didn't really make it clear like if it was anyone from a Democrat state or just registered Democrats. Like, I don't know. But it's kind of crazy. That's very authoritarian. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and it could easily be reversed and cause a lot of problems for conservative voters, like if the situation flips. So I think it's a terrible idea. I was very happy to learn that almost all of y'all thought it was a terrible idea too, or at least saw through what looked good to like the ugliness behind it. People should feel free to move to any state they wish. I'm more for staying and fixing the government that sucks. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that it's good to work on your own state and try to better it. Of course, like people should be able to move to any state that they want though. A couple other things that she said. One thing that I didn't like, and people can get mad at me for this, but she said something else very authoritarian that was kind of wild. She said, you know, in those red states, they could fire all the LGBT teachers, which I'm like, so you want to fire people over their, you know, personal sexual orientation rather than just putting limits on what they can teach in the schools? That's very authoritarian and a very bad idea, you know, to say like, I don't like your lifestyle at home, and so we're going to fire you. Like, it depends on what they bring to the classroom. And anybody can have, you know, if you're teaching or whatever, they can, you know, put some limits on them there. So I thought that was kind of authoritarian, and again, could be like a very weird slippery slope. But then she was also saying like, well, and then in California or whatever blue states, they can have full gender transition schools if they want. And I was like, that's kind of weird too. So she was maybe just kind of like saying a lot of this stuff for sound bites and like to bring attention. I don't know how serious she was because it all sounded kind of absurd. Hell yes, if they have pride flags on the walls, they are pushing it. Yes, absolutely. Yes, but that's not what she said. And I'm saying if you can say like, hey, you can't have these certain flags or display symbolism or push certain agendas or anything like that in the school. But to say like, if that is your lifestyle when you get home, like, I don't know about that. That's kind of, I'm conservative and I don't agree with that. I don't know exactly which comment this person was talking about, but we'll just say thanks for the comment. Oh my God, those are the kinds of people that worry me if they ever get in government. you're talking about her comment that I just said. Fix the voting practices first. Paper ballots, same-day voting, no mail-in ballots. I like that. I think I tend to agree with you. Okay, fire the Marxist pedophiles, but all gays are not pedophiles. Exactly. And so they have to really separate, because otherwise you're punishing just regular people who aren't pushing any agenda or anything. That's why our government needs to be limited no matter who's in office. Yes, exactly. It always needs to be limited. Just like Orange Man, she just needs to shut the F out sometimes, because it does more to harm the right. That's a good comment there, because that's actually accurate. Like, sometimes they say things that are so outlandish, and I you know, y'all, I'm a libertarian, and I say the same thing about the Libertarian Party. Like, sometimes they just say stuff to be like clickbaity to get attention and everything, and it doesn't always like serve any good purpose. Sometimes it detracts. You said no mail-in ballots, so don't allow military overseas to vote. Really? Well, you would think the military overseas, they could administer them paper ballots and then collect them. Someone says they have gay friends in New York City that are libertarian or conservative. Exactly. And so I just think they don't push the groomer stuff. Exactly. So do you want to really tell those people they can't have a job as a teacher anymore? That seems kind of wild. So I don't know what that comment's referring to. Yeah, so that's basically the topic there. I mean, she said all these different things. People, have been weighing in on it. Luckily, a lot of people, like I said, they haven't been attaching to it as like a good idea, like, oh, that'll fix our conservative states. Like, no, I think a lot of people are seeing that, like, a lot more people than I anticipated brought up the Constitution and unconstitutionality. And I think that that's really good, because we have to have, as much as I'm more libertarian, almost to anarchist, and sometimes I think like, oh, would Articles of Confederation worked? Would going back to just mostly like states' rights and like a very, very limited federal government have worked better? Maybe, probably. I mean, there's no telling. I don't know. I can't really weigh in on what the world was like 200 years ago. I wasn't there. And the people that write history, they write it with a bias. So we don't actually know for sure. But we could say, had we done it over, maybe it would have been better. I don't know. But if we have a framework, of limited government, of things to protect us from the government, and that we call that, the Constitution, that's the document that we decided to go by, honoring that is the smartest thing. Like, going back to the Constitution and staying in line with that. And I think so many people are recognizing that. And that's really good to see, because I think, over the past 3 years, people started to think like, oh, that's fine. Lockdowns are fine. Printing money is fine. Telling people they can't have their businesses open is fine. Limiting speech that might be dangerous because it's, not hate speech, but like disinformation. That's the big one. That might be fine, So I think a lot of people kind of went down those roads and then realized like, oh, like this is why we need to go back to the Constitution and stick with it. So I think that it was a really, really good sign that so many people brought up the Constitution and sticking with it. Ballot harvesting is how Hobbes got in, plus machine wouldn't work here. That was a comment from someone. How's your house coming along? Oh, thank you for asking. Did you see my curtains are finally up? My room's pretty much done. Bathroom's done. I'm trying to think. I'm about to buy a lawnmower. Not this weekend, but the weekend after. They have like a tax-free thing. So I'm going to be getting a riding lawnmower. So that's going to be super exciting because I have like a lot of grass. Corruption is so large, it's hard to stop it. Judges are paid off. I don't know exactly what that comment was referring to. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I heard Brazil intends to jail they wrote something else, but dissenters in 2 to 8 years. I have not heard anything about that. That's crazy. Love everything about your house. Old is so soulful. Looks different from when you were on podcast. Yeah, like I've done a bunch. I'll show you guys. You can see my room. I put up a thing yesterday. Like there's some boxes in the corner. Just ignore those. But basically, like I got my antiques. I'm sitting at the desk right now, but I have like an antique desk. I'm pretty sure these are all like from the 1800s. One of my friends, her family was selling some chairs today that are very beautiful antique, and I was like very tempted, but I'm also like, I need to stop myself. Let's see. Oh, it's Tammy from Louisiana Sister Squad. Oh yeah, from when I was on your podcast. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my room was still purple then. I'm pretty sure it was still purple. I had blinds up. I don't think I even had any of my furniture at that point. I had like just moved in. Thank you. It's been so fun. I need to post some new pictures of the bathroom too, as that's really coming along. I'm going to do a couple things to the outside to make it look a little bit better. But it's definitely, I need to find some pictures of before I did anything to it so y'all can see like what it looks like, how far it came, because it had vines growing up all over it. Paint was like flaking off. Some of that outside, was like, I had to replace boards and everything. But yeah, that's it. So thank you all so much for watching this. I do want to let you all know I am doing a webinar on, the date is picked. It's going to be March 26th with a couple other coaches, fitness coaches from my work, our head coach and another online coach. And it is going to be about nutrition. We're also going to do like a nutrition Q&A. And that's going to be March 26th, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. So, and it's free. If anybody wants to join that, please just send me your email and then I'll put you on the list and it'll send you like a Zoom link and then like Zoom link follow-ups, to remind you about it. So should be pretty fun. I'm hoping to do those every single month, but that will be the first one. Other than that, I'm going to put this on YouTube. I have another video coming up. Tomorrow I'm going to do 2 lives. I'm going to be on with Brian in the evening. I think we're going to just talk about, he's a conservative. I'm a libertarian. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about kind of like political groups and stuff. And then I'm also going to do another one on the first 2 American sex scandals. I have a pretty cool book. It's called Sex with Presidents. And right now I'm on Grover Cleveland. Whoa, that story is crazy. But we're not going to do him in the next one, okay? We are going to do Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson and talk about their scandals. Those were way back right in the beginning of American history. So going to talk about some of that there. Alexander Hamilton has a pretty crazy story. And so does Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson's story gets like I have to do some additional research there. I've read 2 books that talked about it, but it's kind of wild. Not just the Sally Hemings stuff, but also the person that had kind of like outed them to the public and what ended up happening to him. So that's going to be interesting. We emailed you for a Twitter space. Excited for you to be a guest again. Oh, you did? Oh, I hope I got it. Was that new? Alexander Hamilton is wild. Yeah, his story was pretty crazy. Huge scandal. It's kind of Alexander Hamilton's story. I'll just say this really quick, is a good example of why you don't want to do things that you don't want everyone to know, because he kind of got a little bit blackmailed and everything there. So if you're going to do something crappy, just go ahead and own it, okay? Because when you try to just cover it up and let people blackmail you, it's not going to go very good. So just own it, okay? Lessons from Alexander Hamilton there. And then the Thomas Jefferson, I don't know. His stuff all seemed to work out for him, but it gets pretty sinister, some of the accusations and everything. So, especially around that journalist. But I will do some more research before I talk too much on that. Y'all, yeah, it's pretty interesting. The book is interesting too. The Grover Cleveland stuff, that was new for me. I need to do a lot more research there because it kind of isn't all adding up, but it's pretty interesting. So I'll probably do a live on that too. But anyways, y'all have a fantastic night. Thank you so much. I kept this one short. Very happy about it. I'm going to post some more house pictures soon for those of you who have been interested. And this is going to go on YouTube, so I'll share the link in my stories with a thumbnail. So y'all have a fantastic evening, and I will be back tomorrow.